Hey guys, welcome to Smithy's Encounters. I'm Luke, obviously. Mrs. is behind the camera, Pam. On this episode, we've got something a bit different. So we've got I think it's a 1986. I got told it was an 87, but it's an 86 Land Cruiser HJ60. A lot of you know I've got a HJ61 Ute. I've had 60s pretty much since I could drive. My first car was a HJ60 Sahara. So I done the restoration of my Ute and rebuild of my Ute when I built it, which took a year and a half. Hopefully this one doesn't take that long, but we will see how we go with funds. And the economy we have at the moment is not looking too good, but anyway, this one is a 2H. 2H is not going to stay in there. Neither is a 5-speed. We've got an order already for a 12HT, so I am hoping to put 12HT, if not something a bit newer in it. We'll just see what we can get our hands on and what I can actually make work. Apart from that, it's going to stay OEM, but heavily modified, being pretty much the same principle I've done with my Ute. My Ute is OEM, but heavily modified, which is very hard to call it that, but everything on it is replaceable with original manufacturer parts. I've literally got 2-inch suspension. I have another 60s. I have another 75 series Land Cruiser suspension of mine. This will cop the same treatment. Hopefully they will be the same car underneath, just this one being of an automatic variant, whereas mine's of a manual, because I like a manual. This is for the missus, so it'll stay hopefully an automatic. It is actually a manual at the moment, but we will change it to an auto. It's not hard. You just have to move the cross member, which is not that hard at all compared to the other things we need to do to this car. So, as you can probably see, it is a bit of a rusty bugger. I wouldn't call it a rust bucket. I've seen a lot worse. I've pulled apart a lot worse. And this one we will save. I'll literally do everything I can to save this car, because it's so in the 86, 87 was the start of the 12HT, which is where my motor came from. My motor came out of an 88. It's in an 89 2HG XL body. This is a POV pack or a G pack. There's no badging, so I'd say it's actually a POV poverty pack, being that it's vinyl interior, bench front, 6-seater with barn doors and round headlights. This is literally the exact same vehicle I grew up in, except for the one I grew up in was a red. So as you can see, I've been in cruisers for a lot of my life. Been in cruisers since I think I was about 8. Is when my parents bought the first HJ60, and they bought the HJ61, which ended up being my car once I got my license. But we actually grew up getting taken places and adventuring in one of these, and this is almost the exact same model, exact same interior as what I grew up in. Literally the pewy brown and yellow. It's not all going to stay like that. You're right on the camera.
Great.
So this will literally be getting a full restoration. The cab, the rust in the cab we will be fixing. Then the cab will come off the chassis, and I'll restore the chassis. Luckily I've got the room in the garage here where I can literally pick the cab up in one piece, or if not I can go find the mate's hoist and use that. Just have to trailer everything everywhere. But we'll literally do full cab resto, chassis restoration, and then we'll put in the driveline, and hopefully by then we actually have a driveline sorted to go in those chassis, and then we'll put the cab back on top, which is how I built my Ute. I took the cab, my cab was built separate to the chassis, because I had another chassis I built and chopped the cab on to build the Ute. And while that was getting done, when I started my paint, I had done all my chassis prep, put the engine and driveline in my chassis, and then put my cab back on top, and then it was finished. And then done all my glass work, all my interior. This will pretty much get that same treatment, and it's not a little job, it's a fair long process. It's not blink your eyes, it's done. My Ute took the best part of 16 months to build by myself here in my garage at home. and I hope this one doesn't take as long, but I know it's going to be over a year, because just with the economy, the price of everything, we've also got to get rid of the Colorado to help pay for this. So once the Colorado goes, I've actually got to sort out another car while this is being built, just so the missus keep getting to and from work, because she doesn't like driving my big ute. I don't care if she drives my ute or not, it's just she's scared it's my ute and she's scared of it on the road. It's not because it's dangerous or anything, it's literally just I built that from the ground up. She doesn't want to hurt it and she doesn't want to crash my car. But this I'm pretty much building for her. She's paying for nearly everything on it, but it will be built the same way I built my ute. I will have an end budget in mind I want to try and keep under. Some people back in, wouldn't even know what you call it back in, it's bad enough for a house deposit, but here I'd rather buy a car than buy a house in today's economy, especially with the way the rates and everything are going, all your mortgages and stuff. It's better to spend on a car and have a car. But anyway, this car is going to be built for touring and expedition. My ute was built for remote expedition, so I got the big fuel tanks and the big tray. I just don't have the canopy. For the money I can spend and make a canopy or buy a canopy to fit out, we can fit this out so much easier and so much cheaper after first paying for the vehicle and then restoring the vehicle. A lot of people in the Land Cruiser world know these cars are getting a lot harder to get a hold of, a lot harder to get them where they're not full of rust and where they've actually been taken care of. This one seems to be taken care of up to a point in its life where the rust got too bad and it looks like it's just been sat up. It has, the odometer reads over 500,000 kilometers, so it's actually got a fair few on it, so I'd say that motor's pretty tired, but I said that motor's not going to stay in there. So as I was saying, that motor is not going to stay in here. It is going to come out. Same with the 5-speed gearbox. The vehicle is going to be more than likely turned into an automatic for the partner. She just likes driving the autos. Her car is an auto. Most new cars are auto. We're not. Hopefully, it gets the 12 HT. We are going to have a look at what I can easily stick in this, whether it be like a little 3-litre 4-cylinder or something. Not so much for rego and insurance wise, but just have something else in it. But I also kind of like the idea of staying like Toyota driveline. So I do really want to get 12 HT and stick that in it. I can source a 12 HT through a mate, cheaper than what they actually go for, but it needs full restoration. I wouldn't have it any other way. My motor, I gave it a full restoration when it didn't need it, but that was for the sake of knowing that the motor is healthy and the motor is 0 kilometers like the rest of the vehicle, because it had brand new gearbox, so brand new engine was the only way to go. Right, so now that I've just gone through and cracked the big bolts, also manhandled the radiator out of the way for the missus. Pretty much the only bolts I've undone are taking all the radiator out, just because it's half full of water and coolant, so it's around draining into a bucket, and I undone the steering, power steering. Apart from that, it's all up to the missus. So we'll probably go a time lapse and see how much we get smashed out. It probably won't come out today. We'll get it ready to come out. now that bugger's out, and it fought to get out. I never actually fought a motor that much to get one out, apart from the motor from my ute. It was the only one I really fought. Yeah, we're actually going to have a change of plans. I guess this motor is going to go back in there once. So yeah, it's been a few days since we've recorded anything, since I've even been looking at stuff, because lastly I didn't want to pull this thing out unless I had someone to put it, and just trying to figure out what motor we're going to put in this car. So about 4 or 5 years ago, I wanted to build a Frankenstein 2H 12HT. So the difference between 2H, obviously this is a 2H. The motor in mine is a 12HT. This is a naturally aspirated, indirect injection diesel. So on the other side of the motor, you have your injector pump. You inject the lines into your injectors. So this has what's called indirect injection. It puts the fuel into a little cup, which then puts in with airflow goes in the cylinder. And the 12HT is direct injection. So a few years ago, I wanted to merge both of them together for sake of 12HTs are damn expensive to get, even though I had a few at the time. I just wanted to tinker and play with them because they both have, the late model 2H and 12HT both have the same crank. They have a different cam, the 12HT has a different con rod. And pretty much I want to build a 2H and a 12HT as a budget build. This isn't going to get quite that, but I am going to turn this into a turbo motor. Therefore putting either an automatic 2H injector pump on it or a 12HT injector pump. They bolt straight on. The only thing different, if we come back to this side of the motor, thank God to my magical thing up there. I'm just going to get to see that. So the only difference between this pump and an auto pump and a 12HT pump is an auto pump has a diaphragm back here. Same as your 12HT, you have, so on a 2H you have your air, which tells the pump if you're idling or not, I guess. And your 12HT, everything is done by air pressure. So your 12HT has a line on the back side of your intake here, which tells the pump if it's in boost or not, and how much boost. It pushes a little lever in, well, the 12HT's got a thing up here, and it pushes a boost fuel diaphragm, but it's kind of confusing if you don't know what it is. Still confusing to me. Yeah, I'm going to try and turn this motor into an actual turbo motor. There's a lot of people that's turboing these things, slapping turbo on and away they go. That's why I didn't really want to do that to this motor. I'd rather actually, it needs a rebuild anyway, it won't start. Its compression is shit. So either way, no matter what motor we get, even if I get a 12HT, I'm still going to have to rebuild it. So either way, I'm going to be in at $6,000 to rebuild it and do all that. So I might as well rebuild this into a turbo motor, put a turbo on it, using companies around the southeast Queensland area like Whistle and Soot. They're pretty much the only ones. I know you can get DTS kits for them, but I'll be using something like along the lines of that, I guess. It also depends on what the missus wants in her car, but pretty much the motor and driveline comes down to what I'm comfortable putting in it. I was wanting to put something a lot more newer in this vehicle to bring it into like the 21st century, but for the cost of whatever motor we can get our hands on, converting the chassis and all that and going through engineering, it's just as easy to do the engineering on one plate, which is for an automatic, which is heaps easy, and do on the suspension. So that way it still tickles the worm of a lot of purists, going it's still a pure 60. It's not some glorified, fully modified, which isn't an issue, because who cares about purists? Mine annoys purists, but I just wanted to bring this into like 21st century and whatnot, but anyway, as you can see, the motor is out finally. So we'll get this gearbox off. I'll actually get this exhaust off because it's quite sharp because of how someone cut it. Yeah, we'll pretty much get it down. I'll put the engine on a cradle for now and just stick it probably under my workbench because that's the only spot it'll fit. So, and then when the time comes, we will get this rebuilt, and yeah, so, but anyway, this will probably be the end of this video. If you haven't already, like and subscribe. Helps get us out there, helps get us into the YouTube and interweb algorithm. So if you don't mind, share it if you enjoyed it. Apart from that, if you like this video, comment down below you want to see more of the 60 wagon build. If you like my ute, comment down below you like my 60 ute. And if you like the ute enough, I'll sooner or later do a walk around and an actual reveal of what the ute cost me to have built, to build it myself, and go through all my engineering and stuff on my ute. So no worries, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.